Ho-Oh is one of the legendary Pokemon that seemingly keeps getting buffs to it every single generation with every single new mechanic, and yet it is still somehow bad. 2019, everybody thought it was going to be good. Nope, it was bad. 2022, you were able to Dynamax, just greatly increase your bulk, go for those max airstreams, boost your team. Nope, you were still bad. Now you get to terrestrialize. Now you get to be no longer 4 times weak to rock. You get to pick a type that may be better suited for a bulky piece such as Ho-Oh, and yet you are still bad. Guys, I do not understand. I think this is like the Ho-Oh complex. I don't know. It seemingly wants to be good. Because if you look at this Pokemon, it's got the bulk, it's got the regenerator ability, and its stats aren't bad, right? Like, you look at this and you go, this should be usable in a game, right? This really should be usable, yet time and time again, it just remains to not be usable. Anyways, today I'm going to do my best to explain how you can possibly use Ho-Oh in Regulation G. But with that, guys, I am not too optimistic, just let it be known. But we will go over everything Ho-Oh has to offer. Not much, but we will go over that, and let's jump into things. So, first off, Fire Flying type and flying offensive coverage is amazing in this format. I've said it time and time again in numerous videos as of late that having stab flying pressure is incredible. And Ho-Oh gets Brave Bird. Ho-Oh gets Dual Wing Beat. Ho-Oh has a lot of options here. It is a very good Pokemon when it comes to having options for flying coverage. I think Brave Bird is by far your best. Then you get a really broken move in Sacred Fire. 100 base power, 95% accuracy, and a 50% chance to burn if it connects. It works for Entei. Why wouldn't it work for Ho-Oh? Right? And then you just get a lot of good things as well. You get to go recover if you want to, so you don't lose your flying typing, instead of having to rely on Roost. You get to have the option to click Tailwind for the rest of your team if you want it to be that supportive piece. You get options like Protect. You get some cool coverage like Earthquake, Iron Head. I'm not sure how valuable those are. You get Helping Hand if you really wanted to, right? But long story short, you are allowed to be that piece, right? You are allowed to be that piece that sits on the field and supports the rest of your team, right? You also have Regenerator. So you can come in, take a little bit of damage, switch on out, come back in later. You're a little bit healthier, right? You have everything going for you. You've got the bulk on the special side like crazy. Your defense is a little low at 90, but 106.90 is very serviceable. You can invest in that because you really don't need to invest into special defense at all. And you'd think this Pokemon would be good. And over the years, Ho-Oh has been that Pokemon that if you're going to pull the right matchups with Ho-Oh, you are going to win, right? Ho-Oh was that Pokemon, if you got that right restricted matchup, you had a very good chance of winning. Back in the day, we had the Xerneas, and when Xerneas was around, Ho-Oh was a pretty good answer to it. It actually used to get Whirlwind as well. It actually still does if you're looking to stop like Trick Rooms and stuff. That's kind of cool. But back in the day, you know, Ho-Oh was that Xerneas tech. If you pulled the Xerneas and the Groudon matches, Ho-Oh was happy, right? If you pulled those matches, you were gaming. But nowadays, first of all, Xerneas isn't in the game anymore. And Groudon is no longer a top Pokemon. So I don't know what matchups you're really looking to get with Ho-Oh, right? Maybe you beat Koraidon, okay? Sure, maybe you beat Koraidon right now, but you're probably not beating Terrapagos very consistently. You're not beating Calyrex because, believe it or not, Glacial Lance is still just a 2-shot into you, unless you Terra out of it. But any Terra that you want to use on Ho-Oh, I feel like you don't want it to be. You're going to end up being weak to the weak to the Glacial Lance anyways, because Grass and Dragon seem to be the front runners, but maybe you can go something like Fairy to maybe like cook something. I think that's a cool option, but what I'm trying to say is it just seems so mediocre, and there's not enough positives for it to really utilize. We are going to go to set 1, and it does get, once again, like I said, coming into this generation, another buff, where you now get Clear Amulet, and you now get Clear Amulet like the rest of the physical restricteds. You now can't be intimidated, so your 130 attack stat actually stays at a 130 attack stat, which is pretty strong. You would think that would be good, right? And for what it's worth, yeah, you get a lot of good things. Like I said before, you get the big Brave Bird damage, you get Sacred Fires. That's very good coverage, very strong options into decent chunk of the meta. Sacred Fire burns are amazing. Maybe you burn to Zamazenta and you're cooking. You also could opt to run Will-O-Wisp here instead of Tailwind. This slot is just a flex. But Brave Bird, Sacred Fire, and I think Protect are a must-have on Ho-Oh. You could probably drop Protect, but Brave Bird, Sacred Fire are for sure staples. And the concept of this set was, okay, Clear Amulet, you can't lower my attack. We can go Terra Grass to help not lose to Amoonguss, and we also get out of the water weakness, we get out of the electric weakness. It made a lot of sense to switch to Terra Grass here. And because of that, you're able to get Tailwind and support the rest of your team. I think Recover might be a little bit better. This does need to be Regenerator, my bad. But I think Recover is probably a little more consistent here. Just wanted to point out that you do get Tailwind. Other than that, this is probably a pretty common set you're going to see. Maybe you do drop Protect. I'm not sure if you necessarily need it. But it's nice to get around that fake out cycle, right? So regardless, Grass is a pretty solid Terra. Dragon is a pretty solid Terra here as well. I think I put Dragon on the second set here anyways. But there's not a lot when you run the calcs. This Pokemon is saddening. Okay? I put max 148 in speed because I really couldn't find anything else to do with it. And at least 148 in speed outpaced the Timid Pelipper. Not that Timid Pelipper is very common. A lot of the Pelipers are running either modest Focus Sash or a little bit bulkier with a little less speed. But that one Timid Pelipper you play that you're going to outpace, you're welcome. I don't think this set is very good. I went 108 in HP and 4 in SpDef because that's going to allow you to survive the Life Orb Astral Barrage from the Calyrex Shadow, which is cool. It's going to be a 3-shot instead of a 2-shot or a chance at 2-shotting. Guaranteed 3-hit, which isn't bad. It definitely helps out Ho-Oh. That's one of the main calcs that I have here. And honestly, it's the only real calc that I could actually find that actually made a difference. The defense investment, this is still a roll to 2-shot from Glacial Lance from the Calyrex. I don't love it. It's still a roll from, if I Terra Grass, it's still a roll from like U-turns. It's not, there's nothing you can find. Everything I tried to calc for was still going to be a roll unless I was investing 252 HP, 252 defense. It just, everything was going to either roll to kill me or roll to 2-shot me. It just didn't feel good. So definitely would play around with the set if you are looking to run a Ho-Oh here. I wouldn't probably just go ahead and take this set. I would find something else that does suit the team better that you're working on, because like it was tough for me to do Ho-Oh in general, right? When you do some of the other Pokemon, you come up with other sets. It's very easy to say, yeah, this lives this, and this. It's a very good benchmark to start with. Ho-Oh doesn't really have that. You really have to cater it to kind of what matchups you're expecting or what matchups the team really wants the Ho-Oh to come for, right? And when you do it generally like this, I'm trying to have spreads onto everything, right? Do I need 108 and 4 to take the Life Orb Astral Barrage? Perhaps not, right? Maybe my team really does just appreciate the crazy physical bulk that I put into Ho-Oh, right? Maybe I lower the attack stat to 76 on the first bump, right? Maybe I bulk it up defensively a little bit more. But my concept was, in general, I wanted to at least be doing some sort of damage with this piece. The piece does not stick around for nearly as long as you want it to stick around for in this format anymore. It used to stick around for a while. I don't see that anymore. So I'm just going to go with 156 attack. It is the second bump, and I just figured I could send some damage with Brave Bird. The calcs are disappointing. The 156 attack is actually a roll to just kill a Amoonguss. It's really sad. Now, granted, that's just the nature of Amoonguss's bulk, not really a shot at Ho-Oh. But, you know, it would have been nice if the legendary flying type would be able to remove the grass type, you know? But you know what? It's all good. Brave Bird is chilling. In fact, some of the Urshifu, like the bulkier Urshifu builds, can even live the Brave Bird here, right? So, like, Ho-Oh is not quite there. It just misses out on so many things. Whether it's missing out on the defensive calcs, whether it's missing out on the offensive calcs, it always just feels like it's one step too shy. But it's alright. If you guys are going to start, I do recommend the Clear Amulet one. It's probably one of your most efficient sets, because the moment you get intimidated, this Pokemon is useless. So I think you need to have a Clear Amulet on this. Recover is cool. You can kind of stick around on the field for a little bit. And like I said, play around with the spread. Let me know what you come up with, because I really couldn't come up with any spread that I liked here that actually did something. Like, I kept looking. Guys, trust me, I looked. I have messages in my building groups where I am just saying, guys, Ho-Oh sucks. What do I even calc for? Because I literally couldn't find anything. So I settled on the calcs that I mentioned earlier, and then just kind of dumped the rest into like defense. It was something at the very least. I went with this spread, and this is the Kyogre concept. And I wanted to showcase Terra Dragon on this one and an Assault Vest. And my concept here is actually maybe Terra Fairy, now that I mention it, because I didn't think about this earlier. But Terra Fairy on an incredibly bulky piece could be very cool. So perhaps Terra Fairy Ho-Oh could be something to consider on this spread or the set 1, right? Because Fairy is a really good typing right now, and we don't actually have that. But actually, Terra Fairy Terra Blast, instead of something like a, you know, like Terra Fairy Terra Blast here, could be very cool. Where's Terra Fairy? There's Terra Fairy. Okay, but you know, Terra Fairy, Terra Blast, now that I think about it, could be cool here, right? It gives you that fairy offense that a lot of teams just don't have unless you're running a Flutter Mane, realistically speaking, or like a Zacian. You don't. The fairy offense is amazing. So maybe having Brave Bird and Terra Fairy offense is actually something to consider, right? Now, I would almost put this on a clear amulet set as well as like a third option. Just say, I don't need recover. I'm going to go Terra Blast, Terra Fairy here as well, right? Maybe you do something like that. Maybe that actually works. I haven't tested that, guys. That's just in theory that I thought about kind of right now on the spot. But overall, the concept with Assault Vest was basically I'm going to sit on the field and I'm going to do damage. I'm going to be able to recover the damage by Regenerator. So if you're going to slowly start to chip my Ho-Oh down, I'm going to switch out, switch back in, heal on up. I think you pair this thing with something like an Amoonguss of your own. Just continuously focus on healing up this Ho-Oh and letting it get the chip damage with the Sacred Fire, the Brave Bird. Earthquake was here because you really do not get a lot of physical attacks. Iron Head is a cool concept. Flame Charge was another cool concept, which I did have on this set initially. And the concept of Flame Charge was that you could actually sit on the field for a little bit, get a couple Flame Charges going similar to Koraidon, and then kind of just be faster than everything. And if Ho gets some speed boosts onto it, it could actually be something to consider. But I don't think it's a very good option overall. In terms of the spread here, guys, I had you outpace Modest Pelipper, which sits at 117. Figured that was something to outpace. Because there's a lot in this speed tier that you don't really want to be messing around with, right? The Raging Bolts sit around 113, 114. Kyogre sits around there. Rillaboom sits around there. Pelipper, like I said, at the 117. So being faster than that Pelipper kind of allows Ho into this spot where it should pretty consistently be faster than those pieces, and at least it gives you something to do damage-wise, right? You live the Origin Pulse from the Kyogre. You don't live the Water Spout, but if you're faster than it, which on the bulkier Kyogres you should be, and you can just Brave Bird them back and remove them from the board, right? The Assault Vest, the main calc that I went for here is the 156-12. That is going to allow you to live Choice Specs, Terra Ghost, Astral Barrage from Calyrex as a 3-shot instead of a roll for a 2-shot. Felt like a calc I wanted to do. And then once again, just the rest was dumped into defense, and I hit that bump in attack, so at least I can do something with this Pokemon. I just think as a whole, and I feel bad just trash-talking this piece every single chance I get, but it just feels lackluster. These are two cool starting concepts if you are trying to look into it. I would start here. I would find something more specific in the calcs that you could potentially look at, because like I said, I did struggle. I did struggle to find specific calcs that I liked. So I think if I had a team in mind that I wanted to put Ho-Oh on, I feel like finding the calcs would make a lot more sense, right? If I realize that, okay, my team struggles with this, let's just say Raging Bolt, like Life Orb Raging Bolt. Okay, maybe I can make Ho-Oh live a Life Orb Raging Bolt Thunderbolt, right? Maybe something along those lines, right? But when it's just trying to build general bulk on Ho-Oh, it is very, very difficult, right? Maybe Ho-Oh needs to be the Calyrex answer. Maybe I go ahead and say I'm going to go max HP, max defense, so that Glacial Lance becomes a 3-shot, right? There's a lot of things you can do, but building the bulk in general was very, very difficult. So if you're going to take it, I like the concepts that I'm going over, but I don't necessarily like the spreads. I would look into the spreads a little more if you are going to take some of these sets. However, set 3 is just stop, guys. I am grasping at straws with continuing and trying to give you guys a third set here. Safety Goggles is fun. Safety Goggles is cool. It allows you to go for a different Terra. Like Terra Fairy, I'm actually very intrigued on how Terra Fairy plays on Ho-Oh. I haven't really tested it, and I know I've kind of talked about it, and I've like pivoted my whole strategy that Terra Fairy is really cool here. I think Grass and Dragon are probably the most consistent. Terra Fairy is something I would try because I think it's cool, right? Having a bulky piece that goes Terra Fairy and can potentially get Fairy offense for you with a Terra Blast is definitely something that I think is slept upon, right? It works for Raging Bolt. We saw Terra Blast, Terra Fairy, Raging Bolts a few times. Not very popular, but we have seen it around, right? And just Fairy in general is a really, really good offensive typing. You lose to Miraidon. There's nothing you can do about that. Terra Ground Ho-Oh beat the Miraidons, am I right? Don't do that. You're still losing to Miraidon. Besides the point, though, right? I think Grass gives you actually a pretty good chance versus Miraidon, because then they still go for Electro Drift. You still resist the Electro Drift. And you can, yeah, you can't really hit it back. Let's not pretend that you can. You really can't hit that thing back. But overall, like I said, I don't know what matchups you are fishing for with a Ho-Oh, guys. I apologize if I did just kind of trash talk this bird the entire time. I tried to get the concepts across. I think set 1 is probably the most consistent. Grass or Dragon are super consistent Terras. Fairy is cool if you're thinking about it and you were willing to go Terra Blast on the set. The AV set is kind of cool. I really don't know. I'm grasping at straws, but it might work. And then after that, Goggles is something, but there's really not much I can really give you with Ho-Oh here. So with that, guys, I am going to stop rambling. These guides are getting harder and harder to do. There is still a few hidden gems that I still have to go over. But right now, these spreads are getting harder. I think we got to do like a Lugia next, which I guess can work. I think Zekrom has to be done still. Like, there's still a lot that I can do that with these guides. So if you guys are enjoying these guides, I am going to do them for every restricted, guys. I promise I'm going to get to every restricted. Just some of them are getting awfully hard to do, like Ho-Oh here. But with that, if you guys are enjoying these guides, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Of course, I am going to stop rambling about how bad this bird is now. But I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in a future video.